it's about what's right and what's wrong. And I think there are millions of people, bogus self-employment is another one, who are being affected in a way that has radically changed their chances to move on in life. I think younger people are in that place. And I always use this example of, and I've said it before to you, of when I started work, 1976, a long time ago, I knew that I had a stable job. I knew that we were very lucky at the time. When we got married quite young, we had a council flat. And the stability that gave me, lots of my mates who were posties then, and I know people in other jobs, people who worked on the dust, worked for the council, worked on buses, they were able to get on the first step of buying a house. These things are out of reach now. And I will say to you today, I think that what we're seeing is basically the models of business that a lot of these big businesses and multinationals are operating are not stimulating growth. They are stimulating executive greed, and they're stimulating money for shareholders in front of the workers. So I'm a strong advocate that we need fundamental change in the world of work.
The universal service, just to explain where we are with that.
Well, where we are with it is that, to really understand it, the previous owners were keen to move to a 3-day or 4-day universal service, and they were lobbying Ofcom to do that. We were opposed to that because we think that whilst there needs to be some change, that the infrastructure of Royal Mail is crucial to its future success, and any opportunities it's got to grow the business through innovation, new products, whatever. And then they came up with a version of that wasn't as damaging, which is this alternative delivery of second class during the week, but not delivering second class on Saturday. Now, this is a model that there's a lot of places across Europe and across the world that have gone a lot further than that.
But how does that work? Because surely if letters are being delivered on a particular day, it doesn't really matter whether they've been sent first or second class. The post... What's the word that we're supposed to use now? We can't say postmen now, can we?
Posties.
Posties. That's too Australian. Anyway, okay. Well, the posties still got to put the letters through the box, whether they're first or second.
Yeah, they have. But I think that what has actually happened is that second-class letters are going to be delivered to specification apart from Saturday. So the second class was always meant to be delivered later. But I think what happened over a number of years is that there wasn't really a lot of difference between whether you posted first or second. It would largely depend on, whether or not what the volumes of work were and whether posties delivered it that day. I think what they're doing effectively is holding that back to specification, but the change is that they're not delivering it on Saturday. Now, what that does, where we disagree at the moment, so where are we? Ofcom have said what the change is. They've announced it. They've done all their consultations. We understand that change needs to happen, but we haven't reached an agreement on how and when it's going to be introduced. And the reason for that is back to the same old arguments that what we care about is whether the postie can actually deliver the workload. And what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years is that Royal Mail management, the previous regime, were deliberately running the service into the ground. And I'll tell you why, because their real belief is they don't want to deliver letters anymore. They want to be in the same place that the competitors are for delivering parcels on the gig economy model. And we've opposed that, and we've successfully opposed that.
Relations with the new Royal Mail management, you sort of hinted a moment ago that things have changed a bit for the better. I couldn't be worse, could it?
I think that's true. I think most of our members would share that view that it couldn't be worse. But I think our members are still sceptical because they're not seeing any change at local level at the moment. But what we have done is we reached an agreement with the new owners, and the government were involved as well. Government took a golden share in Royal Mail. Their agreement was a 35-page agreement that ensures that these are going to be responsible long-term investors. And the early indication, whilst our members are not seeing that, and I say it with that caveat, and we've made that clear to the new owners, is that they are willing to look at things differently. So, for example, what I was just talking about, they seem to be prepared to join with the union and jointly start going to government and the regulator and talking about the need for a level playing field. So that's good. That's different to what we've seen before. In a recent kind of situation that was getting quite tense around pay, to be truthful, they came in and settled the pay on terms that we found acceptable, and we think was a good deal for our members, a 3-year deal, 4.2 this year. Inflation as a minimum next year, but we've reopened the clauses. It can't go below 2%. If it's above 3%, we can reopen and talk about it again. We thought that was stability, and given the overall situation was good. But the crucial point was that they separated, agreed to separate that from the change on the universal service, which we're negotiating at this moment. Now, the other regime would never have done that. They would have insisted wrongly, because they created absolute havoc in Royal Mail.
At my house, I'm getting letters probably 2 or 3 times a week because they haven't got enough posties to sort of deliver to every house every day.
You live in Tunbridge
Wells.
Tunbridge Wells, yeah, and that's one of the pilot. It's either Tunbridge or Tunbridge Wells is one of the pilot offices. They're probably working out of the same office, and it is a disaster. And it's a disaster because the starting point is loads of vacancies. Why is there loads of vacancies? Well, because the company, in their wisdom, decided to impose lower terms and conditions, and they can't keep staff. They made these new conditions, that it was unbelievable the way that the attitude that they took. They called it, it's our business to run. They basically lost all support from the workforce. So going back to your earlier point, and we've been fighting to try and get back to some normality. But it is hard in the sense of there's also an honest challenge that we all face, which is we're not going to survive purely delivering letters. So we do have to move to parcels. We do have to move to other things. So that's why it's problematic at the moment. The regulators caused many of these problems by talking about encouraging false competition, where, letters that are a declining market. I mean, how mad is it that a regulator introduced competition when they knew that letters were declining? Why would you do that? And therefore, we have a system imposed on the company where, around where they would get 100% of whatever the profit was for delivering those letters, we now have to do the last mile that no one else wants to do because it costs a lot of money. And other companies can come in and take the upstream work. They call it the access regime. Same with BT. They access companies, private companies, competitors who pay lower wages, access BT's network. This can't be right for the UK economy.